Hello, Mr. Weiss. Thanks for having Alpha Audio with you. We're now in your headquarters, and maybe you could tell something about the philosophy of Weiss Audio.
Well, we always try to do our equipment as transparent as possible, so not coloring, etc. And we do that, as you know, probably that we are in the pro audio and also in the high-end hi-fi field. And we started in the pro audio, and there we had we gained some reputation about having extremely transparent units like EQs, dynamics processors, and A to D and D to A's as well. So in our high-end line, we have about the same philosophy to have our units as transparent as possible.
And what is the ideal Weiss customer for you?
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, I don't know all our customers, but I hope they like music, of course, and I hope they buy our equipment because they would like to listen to music and in a decent manner and decent way, and not because only of, say, technical reasons.
And may I ask, Mr. Weiss, your opinion about optical media? Is it obsolete? Is it dead, in your view?
Well, not yet, but I think it will become a niche, and probably even more than like vinyl these days, and because everything will be based on internet downloads or internet streaming eventually. And with the faster internet rates, we will get more streaming, even in high res. There will be streaming services.
And about streaming and bitrate, what is your view on? Well, if there are like the megapixels in cameras, can you expand a little bit on?
Yeah, no, that's. I think it's a problem because there is no point to go to say 192 even or 384 because once Bob Stewart of Meridian did a research on that very topic actually, and I think he ended up with, say, 64 kilohertz as an optimum sampling rate in terms of sonic quality, in terms of bandwidth required to store, etc. So 96 is about perfect from this point of view. So there is actually no point to go higher than 96. I know it's not the thing which many high-end people are thinking of, but that's how it is. No, we do all in 192, but we do that mainly because of market pressure. Even now the DSD is picking up again because of the downloads. So we are kind of forced to do DSD now. We are working on that because I think DSD is a flawed format actually. It's very old-fashioned. It's a one-bit quantization, which has its set of problems, but unfortunately, Sony and Philips decided back then to do that format, and now we are stuck kind of with that. But all PCM recordings like 96 and above are way better than DSD in a technical term.
Because we have this old Sony mixer. In what bitrate was it by then? Could you?
That was 48 maximum. That was the standard back then. Yeah.
And do you hear differences in sound?
Well, in our equalizer we have in the Pro line, there we do an upsampling internally to double the rate. Say 48 goes to 96, and there actually you can hear some differences. So I don't say it's 44.1 or so is enough. It's not necessarily so. There is some benefit in higher rates, but as I said, 96 is very enough. And even I think a decently recorded CD at 44.1 can sound marvelous. I don't see.
Yes.
Yeah. See the point there.
Yes. Question.
Yes. Well, of course, besides the sampling rate, which we just covered, there is also the question of word length or bit rate, which is another term for it. So the CD has a 16-bit word length, as we know, and this gives about 96 dB of dynamic range, which is usable. Of course, in production, let's say in mastering or recording, a higher word length is required because we do some operations on the digital data like volume control, equalizing, etc. So we need a higher precision there. But in the end, when it gets quantized to a CD format, say with the 16 bits, we can apply so-called dithering, which allows to save some of the lower resolution information to the 16-bit format. It can be amazingly good, actually. Actually, on our website, we have a demo of a dithering process to show people how dithering is applied in volume control. And I have some 8-bit samples there, which sound amazing. There is an 8-bit kind of noise floor, so it's kind of noisy. But the music itself is completely undistorted. So you hear down into the noise floor all the music there is in kind of a, say, 24-bit resolution. It's amazing. So you can get, out of 16 bits, you can get an amazing quality in terms of signal to noise, etc. So, of course, I think it's worth to do a 24-bit format in the end, still. So, but you don't need, say, 32 bits or beyond. I would vote for a 96K or, say, 88.2 and 24 bits.
Okay.
That's probably the ideal format.
Okay. What is the difference between Weiss and, let's say, Lin or Meridian? Could you tell? Do you have an idea about that?
Yeah, not that much actually. I don't know the other brands that well that I would have. I would be able to judge them on our compared to us. I think it's actually when we do some new development, we try to not to look what others are doing. It's maybe a strange approach, but if we check out what the others are doing, then we get some preconceptions on our own stuff. So we try to start with the blank slate and go from there.
Shall we go to this demo table and that you can tell what, these are the what you are making? Could you tell?
Of course.
Can we just walk on up there?
So these are the two first units we did in our high-end range. On top is the JSON CD transport. On the bottom is the Medea D2A converter.
And why is it called Jason and Medea? Are you Greek tragedy?
Actually we started off with the Medea. And I like the name just because it sounds good to me. So, and then we thought at the start we thought that we could get away with just a D2A converter and that's it. But then of course people were asking about more in the high-end range, so we did this transport, and luckily we found that Medea had a husband called Jason, so we did the Jason. Okay. And that's how it started, and then we later on we did the DEC 202. So we left the Greek mythology, and this is with DEC 202 we started our Firewire range. Actually, there was a Minerva as well, Minerva DEC, which we don't do anymore. Now it's the DEC 202. It's also available in USB, in a USB version. And now the latest one we have is the Command 301, this one, which is a network player. It has a built-in DEC 202 actually as the DEC. And this is controlled from the iPad. And it's an extremely flexible unit with an external storage like a NAS or USB hard disk. And it can rip CDs, of course. It can edit metadata. It gets artwork from the internet, from Grace Note. We just are working on the latest software which is accessing Grace Notes actually. So you need, you have to have an iPad like this with our app on it, of course.
It's also Android?
Not yet. We are thinking about doing Android, but balanced.
Can you tell us maybe what you are working on in your head, on the new developments?
Yeah, well, we are working on these ways, of course, all the time. New models we conceive in all price ranges actually. So, of course, we don't stand still. And right now we are working on the MAN 301 software because there are lots of possibilities with such a platform.
Oh yes.
Because it's mainly software based, so we will do some plugins, software plugins for like vinyl simulation, more EQ and room EQ, all that stuff.
One last question, Mr. Weiss. You do pro audio and high-end audio. What's the difference? Is there a difference between pro audio and
yeah, there is a difference, of course. At one point we thought we would have our EQ1, which is the mastering equalizer, which we sell in Pro Audio. We would do a version for the high end, but then we found out that it's a 7-band parametric EQ with 21 knobs to operate it. So, as you can imagine, the average high-end user is completely overwhelmed by the possibilities there. He doesn't know what to do with it. He can control all kinds of frequencies, etc., but he has to have an idea what to do, actually. And that's the point. I mean, the professional mastering engineer, he listens to the music and knows what's wrong with the music, basically, and then he knows how to fix it. But the high-end listener is not used to that concept, so it has to be simpler. If you do an EQ in high-end, it has to be a simpler unit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the difference. Of course, the clientele is also different. There are different questions, of course, and so it's completely different market actually. Because we come from the Pro Audio, as I said, and in Pro Audio, Firewire is extremely widespread. It still is actually. And there was or is a chip available especially made for audio via Firewire, which is extremely good in terms of jitter performance, etc. So it was kind of logical to use that chip. Plus, at that time, we started with Firewire. The USB chips weren't available anymore, the decent ones. So,
and nowadays, is there a difference between Firewire and USB chips?
Again,
would you say that there is a difference between USB and Firewire still?
Well, not these days anymore, actually. Because of the asynchronous USB, it has picked up nicely in that respect. So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend one over the other, except for maybe some operational things, because Firewire is a bus, so you could hook up several decks to one bus and have a multi-channel system. And for USB, you need one connection for each deck. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a practical thing. But sonically, it's